It somehow got even better for the Carolina Hurricanes as their hot start to the season has not stopped in the midst of a massive winning streak. The hottest team in the Eastern Conference just keeps showing why they will be a contender this year, including production from some somewhat unlikely sources as Jack Roslovic is one of the hottest goal scorers in the entire NHL. Shayne Gostisbehere putting up huge numbers and much, much more, making this Carolina Hurricanes team a huge threat to every other team in the NHL. We got to dive into all the recent things that have been happening on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into the video, guys, a quick reminder that, again, over 90% of you watching this video are not subscribed. We got content from all over the NHL, including your Carolina Hurricanes. So if you want to stay up to date on everything going on around the league, hit the subscribe button down below. It's completely free, and you can see everything that we have to say. Mark, there's so much stuff we got to get into on the front of the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't even know where to start. I think I want to start with Jack Roslovic because he's the guy everyone's been talking about. He has been absolutely unbelievable so far this season, up to 9 goals in 12 games as of the recording of this video, which is happening on Saturday before the Hurricanes game. But this is a guy that they got at a very low cap hit. You know, he's kind of a lower risk move. Roslovic's bounced around a little bit, of course, involved in that Line A trade so long ago. But this season, he's coming in at just, under $3 million, and his production has been one of the best in the entire NHL for that cap hit. What have been your thoughts on him so far, especially in this recent hot streak of his?
I mean, watching Roslovic, you're looking through, he's going in and scoring more goals than anyone on this Carolina roster. 9 goals is leading the team. We can see him doing it in 12 games. He's on the top line. He's on the second power play unit. Getting Roslovic in for that under $3 million cap hit has been huge for this team. I mean, this is a guy that has been around a little bit. He was with the Winnipeg Jets. He was with the Columbus Blue Jackets all the way to the New York Rangers, and now he's with Carolina, where he seems like he's going to have his best career, and it seems like he might honestly get an extension with how he's playing. Bringing in a guy like this was a low risk, high reward, and we really got the high reward out of him so far. But Josh, looking at Roslovic, do you think maybe an extension could be coming in if he continues this dominance?
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
9 goals in those
yes,
games.
yes,
But
yes,
looking
absolutely.
looking at him,
I don't know. I'm not even gonna let you finish this out. No, 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 no. Listen, if you're a Carolina Hurricanes fan, I know all you Hurricanes fans are clamoring to extend him because you need to. This guy's a UFA too. You don't even have RFA stuff. But sorry to interrupt, but I'm also not sorry because I'm very passionate about what he's been doing on the ice so far. He has looked like one of their best forwards in a lot of games. So yes, I'm on board with that Roslovic extension. I think a lot of Hurricanes fans are too.
I mean, looking at Roslovic, it seems like he could score 40 goals at this point. But looking at the forwards, is there anyone else that you wanted to kind of just give a shout out within this lineup on who you think's been overperforming or just been dominating in general?
Well, I mean, like Marty Necas, we always got to talk about him because, of course, in this offseason, there was rumors he was going to get traded. He was heavily linked to Montreal, among other teams. And they were wondering, should we really give him the money he wants, like an $8 million deal long term, which is what he was seeking? And I'm like, I don't know. Will that production really be there? The Hurricanes ended up re-signing him for 6.5 over 2 years. And so far, he has overperformed that. Now, we knew that this team would give him some more offensive opportunity, and that is paying incredible dividends right now. With 21 points in 12 games, he has been one of the hottest players in the entire league. But we all kind of know Marty Necas. He's been great. He's been amazing in the midst of this, as of the recording, again, 8-game win streak. But the other guy, again, I just want to shout out Jackson Blake. Just if you look at the team stats there, Jackson Blake, for his position in the lineup, has been really good. One of the most slept on young players in the entire NHL right now. He's not going to be on the top line anytime soon, at least not this season, I wouldn't imagine. But he's been a guy that I've kept my eye on, and a guy that I think a lot of NHL fan bases just don't talk about enough.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at him, I mean, 6 points in 12 games. He firing at a half a point per game while playing under 11 minutes. This is one of the most productive fourth lines we've seen. And Jackson Blake, being a rookie, while being a young prospect, coming up is a huge part of this. So it seems like Carolina has found some hidden talent. I mean, they lost some guys in the offseason. I mean, Jake Guentzel. But I'll say it, they don't need Jake Guentzel. They don't need the cap hit he was going to bring.
No.
They went out, they signed their guys. They have their forwards locked up for the most part. I mean, for the next 2 seasons for a lot of these guys, minus someone like Jack Roslovic. But looking at the forwards signed, I mean, as someone that watches the Vancouver Canucks and the Toronto Maple Leafs a lot, this roster doesn't have a bunch of $11 million contracts that are not performing. We see these guys coming in at $9 million, $7 million, $6 million, $4 million. These contracts are awesome, and I honestly think Carolina's going to be dominant. I mean, this is a team that can still continue to add forwards. I mean, it doesn't even seem like they need to. But looking at the forwards, Josh, do you think maybe they'll go out and try to get like a Jake Guentzel type trade again going into the trade deadline?
I mean, it's possible. Here's the thing with Carolina. Eric Tulsky becoming the GM has been such a blessing for them, I think. Like, just watching how they've managed a lot of their money, not overpaying for guys like, that Nature's deal is a good example. I know it's shorter term, but now that, you bet on him, right? And you're like, I bet you he's going to perform really well. Yes, he could walk to another team. He's going to get a huge bunch of money now after this contract if he continues this performance, but you still locked him up for a couple of years at a good deal. And you still have guys like over in Russia, like Alexander Nikishin, that's going to come over and he's going to step him into your D corps and he's going to be so good. So right now, to answer your question, I think it's very possible. It depends though. Like, it depends who becomes available. And what I've learned to know about the Carolina Hurricanes is they're not going to go make some bad move just to make themselves a contender right now. They have a few years of window for sure, depending if they think they can sign Marty Necas long term, or even maybe if they can't, they go get someone else. They have some young players, they have some aging players, but they have a lot of young guys and some of their most talented guys locked up fairly long term. So they got a few years of a window here, Mark, and it wouldn't surprise me to hear their names in a lot of trade rumors, not only for this trade deadline, but we're talking next season and even a couple seasons beyond.
I mean, if you ask a Canucks fan, most of them say Elias Pettersson's available, so maybe we see a big splash like this coming in. But we do need to give a shout out to a guy like Shayne Gostisbehere, Gosse. Gosse has been dominant. We've seen a lot of comments of you guys talking on him. Gosse has came in on his contract. He's looked great, and we've seen him play on the second pairing. Josh, do you think the second pairing has been just kind of overachieving from what a lot of people expected? Seeing a guy like Gosse and Sean Walker come in and be one of the most dominant second pairings, and not only second pairings, but pairings in the NHL.
Yeah, they've been unbelievable. I mean, in terms of goals for, expected goals for, they are a top 10 defensive pairing in the entire NHL. And if you look at this list, like the only pairing above them that has more minutes, that has a higher expected goals percentage while they're on the ice, is probably the best offensive D pairing in the league in Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek. I mean, you can make an argument for Cale Makar and Devon Taves, whatever, but Hughes Hronek is absolutely amazing. And a lot of these other ones here, like 50 minutes Nurse Kulak, 52 minutes Brodeen Faber, all this kind of stuff. But Gostisbehere, Walker, for what these guys were expected to bring, like Sean Walker is not some kind of offensive juggernaut, but this just shows me that they control the puck very well. They're not allowing other teams to get many opportunities, and they're creating chances by themselves as well. This is kind of what a lot of teams really strive for in a defensive pairing, where you pair a more stay-at-home guy like Sean Walker with a guy who is known for, like, that almost glass cannon build in Shayne Gostisbehere, who a lot of fans think, though, like in the past, the guy, he kind of gives a lot back on the defensive end, even though he's really good offensively. This year, Gostisbehere has not been that bad defensively. I feel like that's some notion that a lot of people talk about, but you watch some games and you hear Hurricanes fans talk about him. It's like, this guy's really not that bad defensively. He's no, like, top defender in the league or anything, but he's been producing incredibly offensively. This pairing just manages to control the ice exactly how you want kind of a two-way pairing to work.
I mean, I'm saying it right now. Ghost is the most underrated defenseman in the entire NHL. It seems like no
Woo!
one's talking about his production. I mean, we're seeing him on the second line. We're seeing him pair with a guy like Sean Walker, but he's coming out power play quarterback. We're seeing him put up 9 points in 12 games. We did see him put up 56 games last year for the Red Wings, but I do think we're going to see a career year out of Ghost. I mean, production wise, he's been scoring, he's been putting up assists, but I also think his two-way game, like you said, has been involving a lot. I mean, it's a huge example on why they're so high up in the expected goals for. We're seeing these guys dominant no matter when they're on the ice. This could be with the top line, this could be with the fourth line, this could be on the power play. We're seeing both Ghost and Walker really take that next step. And I mean, looking at the defensive pairings, obviously a guy like Orlov and a guy like Brent Burns are going to be gone. It doesn't seem like Carolina fans are going to be so upset with a guy like Orlov gone. Maybe Brent Burns comes back on a cheap deal. But looking at Sean Walker and Ghost come in for a lower cap hit than a lot of defensemen. I mean, Morgan Riley's making almost $8 million, and you see Sean Walker and Ghost making under 7. This is an absolute steal for such a dominant and productive line. Josh, looking at this, do you think this could be honestly looked at as one of the most underrated second lines, first lines, whatever you want to call them, in the NHL?
I think they're already. I mean, like, look, I think a lot of teams have underrated second pairings or whatever, but this Hurricanes one to me is just one that gets slept on a lot because I mean, you look at Carolina, they have some pretty gaudy offensive numbers there. They got the cool story in Jackson Blake. They got Necas being one of the most dominant point producing forwards in the NHL, and you always have a guy like Aho who's a ton of fun. Like, there's so many other guys up front as well. Roslovic with 9 goals, but when you look at their defense, I mean, people know the big names. They know Brent Burns, right? And, they know Jacob Slavin, who is a fantastic phenomenal. I also think Jacob Slavin is worth that money and more that he's making. But For the money that these two are making, especially, and guaranteed for this season and 2 seasons beyond this, and then you get Walker a little bit longer. Like, yeah, they're not getting any younger. They're past their prime, but they are filling that exact role that you need them to. And honestly, in terms of production, like even if a player is past their physical prime, their playing peak, they can still produce at a higher level if they're put with a guy that really complements their game. And that's what we're seeing. You're seeing almost a little bit of a, I don't want to say resurgence, but like they're staying steady because that Walker and Gostisbehere really complement each other. I mean, we could talk forever about this, but I know Hurricanes fans are dialed in on this defensive pairing, and to me, it has been, yeah, one of the more underrated things in the NHL is Carolina's D-core, and especially how well that second pairing has done so far.
And I mean, the biggest thing is we're seeing this team dominate. Currently an 8-game win streak. While we're recording this, I think is 9-1 in their last 10. This is not even with Freddie Anderson in the lineup, as he was out with a
Yeah,
lower body injury. So once they get fully healthy, this team is going to continue to roll. I believe they're the hottest team in the NHL, just behind the Winnipeg Jets, who's been hard to score on because Connor Hellebuck has been Jesus himself.
yeah,
But
it's
looking
crazy.
at this Carolina team, they're going to continue to dominate. They're going to be, and I'll say it, they're the best team in the East. I know they don't have the best record, but Florida does have games in hand. But what's your
I think
guys'
they got the best
thoughts?
record. They just don't have the most points.
Yes. So looking at this team, they're
Yeah.
going to keep rolling. What's your guys' thoughts on everything to do with Carolina? Who's your favorite forward? Who's overperforming on what you expected this year? Let us know down in the comments. And if you do leave a comment, you could be featured as comments a day, like we see in Firewood Farms today. Sub thanks for following my Canes. We've seen a lot of comments on this, and we know you guys enjoy Carolina, so we wanted to get another video up. But if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go down and leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode. I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Josh, and take care.